Hey everybody, ReefGrrl here, and welcome to my channel. If you've been following along, you'll know that my reef system contains roughly 600 gallons of water. 300 gallons-ish is upstairs in the display, and the rest is down here in the sump. One of the problems, or I guess challenges we face with these big systems is managing the ATO. Now that the display tank is online, this system evaporates between 7 and 8 gallons of water per day. There is a video in my 600-gallon playlist that talks about how the ATO was originally set up to manage the sump. That doesn't work anymore because the evaporation has virtually doubled. So we had a problem to solve. My favorite ATO is the Hydor Smart Level. It always has been because of how well it works. It has never failed me. For this system, I'm using a pair of them so that I can offset the sensors very slightly so that they'll continue to run until the water comes right up to the correct level. Without doing this, the pumps time out after roughly 10 minutes and the water level never gets properly adjusted. This worked beautifully for an entire year. However, once we doubled the water volume, we also doubled the evaporation, as I mentioned, and we were running into constant alarms because the ATOs were coming on so frequently, overlapping, the water level was dropping much quicker, it just could not keep up. So we had to come up with something else. We came up with the DIY ATO Booster. The thinking was that if we could supply a regular drip of RODI water to the tank somehow, it would take up part of what the ATO was required to supply every day. So here's the setup. Over here we have our 125-gallon RODI container, and inside at the bottom is the Sichi Ultra Zero utility pump. I absolutely love this thing. This hose that you can barely see under all this junk is connected to this Y. The hose to the left goes to the original setup to fill the ATO and the saltwater mixing tank. And the hose to the right was newly added to give me a way to dispense RODI water if I just need some from the sink here. And this other one is to the ATO Booster. This travels up and to the ceiling, and then it turns and goes across and over to the ATO Booster tank, where it drops down through the lid. And this is how we fill it. Because this container is above our heads and opaque, we needed a way to keep track of the water level inside, so my husband installed this sight glass. If you've kept aquariums for any length of time, you might recognize that the sight glass itself is made from an old gravel siphon. We bought a multi-pack of RODI fittings on Amazon and put them to good use throughout this project. This fitting is a bulkhead that supplies the sight glass with water. It has a valve on it so that we can shut off that water supply should we need to remove the sight glass for, let's say, cleaning. And here on the opposite end of the container is another little bulkhead that holds the supply line that takes the water to the tank. Another valve for shutoff if necessary. And the water line runs across the space over the tanks and meets up with this piece of upright wood that also has all of the hoses from upstairs attached to it. There's a little elbow, the line turns, goes through another valve, and down and drips into the tank. The drip rate is fine-tuned using this little micro valve from Two Little Fishies. It's the small size that fits inside RODI tubing. And the beauty of this is, because we're using this as a supplementary booster to our ATO system, which controls the water level based on sensors and reacts as necessary, we don't have to measure this drip rate. We don't even have to keep track of it other than making sure the container above is always full. And because the system is completely gravity fed, the only time we need electricity is when we plug in the pump to refill the container. All that evaporation from all this open water also creates humidity, and that's why we keep these lids on most of the time. Coming up, we have to do a lid for this 150-gallon section, but that has to wait until it's empty. I need to finish moving all of these corals upstairs into the display. I still have a lot of work ahead of me. And because we were able to use scrap lumber and a couple other things we had on hand, the total cost of this project was around $50. Can't beat that. If you found this video useful, why not give it a thumbs up? And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to my channel to stay right up to date with the ongoing evolution of this new 600-gallon system. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, everybody.